You mentioned race, and so I wanted to bring up the topic of any correlation that there might be between race and human trafficking, as well as what are the differences between some of these ethnicities and how they're trafficked.
Yeah, I know I did mention like human trafficking doesn't discriminate. The notion that anyone can be trafficked is absolutely true. However, people of color are disproportionately affected by human trafficking. And when we look at human trafficking, we really are looking at a racial justice issue. Racism and oppression are deeply embedded in trafficking. So when you look at it and you're looking at how to solve this, giant nuanced issue, you really have to look at the root factors that push people of color into the commercial sex trade, especially in the US. It definitely affects women and children predominantly. There's, again, all kinds of statistics, but in the US, the most recent one that I came across was that 94% are female and 77% are non-white. So it's affecting minorities incredibly. In Europe, which we often think is going to be white victims of human trafficking, it's not. It's primarily like the Roma ethnic groups. And when you look at the justice system too, and you look at, human trafficking is often confused with prostitution, and especially from a legal standpoint, victims are often arrested on prostitution charges. And if you look at prostitution charges in the US, about 40% of the arrests are Black women. So that's more than any other racial group. And I think, people of color are identified as criminals, and biases do cloud the ability to recognize consent. Again, when we talk about prostitution, a prostitute consents to this type of work, and a trafficking victim does not. And like we've seen with these statistics, people of color are definitely being arrested more on prostitution charges. They're also less likely to seek help from law enforcement, whether they're worried about their immigration status, as I mentioned earlier, or even stigmas that have been associated with them. There's a visa specifically for human trafficking victims. It's a T visa, and in the last year, the U.S. has granted the least amount since 2010. That's not a result of them being not reported. I think there's definitely like a hold on all immigrant visas right now, but that's something we need to take into consideration, is that victims of human trafficking aren't getting their visas and don't have the right to work. And that visa is dependent on them also working with law enforcement and cooperating to bring down trafficking networks, which is absolutely crucial. So yeah, human trafficking is definitely a racial justice issue. When we're looking at like how to combat it, we need to take a very systemic and institutionalized racism approach and figure out I think we need to do so we talk about this a lot at Dressember, with ethical practices and a lot of humility, and knowing that this is something that is embedded in our society.
Yeah, oppression, and I think there has to be levels of education, even for the young women in all these countries, to let them know, when they're being trafficked. I think sometimes they don't even realize that they're kind of falling into the traps. Mm-hmm. So to really keep them educated. Wow, it's amazing, and really, again, staggering around the world and in the US that this can be happening, especially for the dollars. I mean, yeah, I always want to think about, what is the crux of it, and, where can that intervention happen? So I'm really glad you talked a little bit about that, and, some of the things that are happening there. And, thank you to Dressember for all the awareness that you're creating, intervention programs you're creating, and the training. That's huge, especially right now, and especially as we hear everyone's kind of locked down. So people who are vulnerable, or people who are already kind of in terrible situations, are not really able to find ways to escape where they're at. So I also love the fact that you worked with Lyft and other partners to just allow people to understand what the signals are to look for. if nothing else, and then, create that intervention, call the hotlines. So how does one get involved in Dressember? What can all of us do to be a part of that amazing event?
Yeah, so our campaign is open year round. You can sign up on our website. It's just dressember.org, or if you want to go directly to fundraise, it's dressember.org/fundraise. You can start a page there. You can do like birthday fundraisers, or if you're hosting an event, like your page is there. And then December is the actual style challenge, where you commit to wearing a dress or a tie. And that's really when our advocates are like sharing so it's like a social media profile. So you share your URL. It's linked to Facebook, so you can fundraise on Facebook. You can do it via email. Some people don't even use social media at all. They're like just asking friends in person. So everyone fundraises a bit differently. But yeah, so the page is on our website. You start that, you add a photo, you add a blurb while you're participating. You wear a dress every day, and we have advocates that raise anything from $50 all the way up to $20,000. So it just you would be surprised how many people will support you in something that you're passionate about. So yeah, and then that leads us up to January, which is National Human Trafficking Awareness Month.
For sure. Viewers, thank you for joining us this week. We hope our Facebook Live series are inspiring you to make change with Coin Up. We invite you to coin up for Dressember by clicking on the link in the caption below. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon.